Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you everyone for making tonight's meeting under the circumstances, and happy to be back. We do have an open forum opportunity. Is there anyone wishing to address the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to number 4, approval of today's agenda. And I'd look for a motion for approval. So moved. Got a motion by Dennis. Is there a second? Second. Second by Bruce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Okay. Agenda is approved. Number 5 then is our consent items, and I would look for a motion to approve all the consent items.
I have a question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
On 5.8, I see the district has a agreement with ALEA that resignations aren't to take place except during
Point of order.
Okay, hold it. Jill, just a second, hold on. Jill, can you hear us?
With the consent agenda, we should pull that item out for discussion if there's anything to be discussed.
Yep, okay. What number was that again?
5.8.
5.8?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? We'll take, so we'll look for a motion for the consent minus 5.8 for discussion.
Move approval as amended.
Okay. Yeah, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second. Thank you, Kim. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Okay, let's take a look at 5.8. Okay, Bruce, go ahead.
Well, I see the district has an agreement with ALEA for midterm resignations or retirements only. Does this happen often? I know when I worked for the school district, we had people retiring in the middle of the month, in the middle of the week, and I like the agreement we have with them, but does this happen often where somebody wants to retire midway?
Yeah, I agree, Bruce. It used to be on my anniversary date, on my birth date, they would retire. And I did talk to Mike, and Chris, you can confirm.
Yeah, it does not happen very often,
Okay.
which is why we go through the MOU process when someone wants to do it.
I don't have a problem with it then.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, then I would look for a motion to also then approve 5.8, the MOU with the ALEA.
So move.
Neil?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Angie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign? Okay, it's approved. Okay, 6.1, Superintendent's Report. I believe Mr. Dibble has that for us.
Yep, just a couple items to pass on. First of all, we are starting our new learning model on Monday, March 22nd, right around the corner. And I pulled some numbers with John, our distance learning administrator, just to kind of take a look at where we are. You can see the pretty large push toward the in-person learning with 11 overall at Halverson, 8 at Hawthorne, 5 at Lakeview, 8 at Sibley, plus 16 at Southwest, and plus 42 at the high school, for a total of 90 students coming back from the distance learning model to the in-person model starting on March 22nd. And then wanted to pass on information. Tentatively, this is the date for prom, following the new guidelines set forth by the governor. Albert Lee High School prom will be April 24th from 8 to 11 p.m. at the high school. Right now, only open to Albert Lee High School junior and seniors. And we'll work with the Minnesota Department of Education and Department of Health in order to follow the safety guidelines as they move forward. But we wanted to get that on your radar, and we're trying to move forward. And that is it for that report.
Okay. Thank you. School board member reports. Let's start. I see Angie. Angie Hoffman in the background. Would you like to start?
Sure, I can do that. All right, I've been to 2 committees since last month. The first was February 18th, the curriculum committee with Neil, and that was really interesting. We heard John Double talk about pathways to success, which is always interesting to hear. And then Jill Peterson gave an example of the really great reading program. So that was kind of fascinating to see how our students are learning how to read. And I was happy to learn that they're using phonics again for that. Then the other one, March 5th, was the Business Education Committee. Dennis was there. And I tell you what, this one is hard to know how to report on it because there's so much that they covered. But the main thing that stood out to me on this one was discussion about putting together some training options for local businesses whose staff have been promoted to management and need some training for that. So there's going to be a subcommittee working on exploring that. I'm on that. We haven't met yet. But it would just be nice to have some local options for management and leadership training. And that's what I've got. Dennis might have more to add on that, but that's what I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Jill?
I participated in the Positive Community Norms grant writing team for the Family Services Collaborative. That grant is due toward the end of the month, and so we're working to get the application in order.
Okay, thank you. Kim?
Yeah, you know, the only meeting that I had, I wasn't able to attend the business ed or the toy committee, so Bruce maybe will be able to report out on that. But I don't normally report out, but I did attend the Blue Zones or the National Vitality Center leadership team meeting, and there's just really some great I'm reminded about all the great things that program has done for the school district, but that's really the only comment I wanted to make, and so that's all I have for this month.
Thank you, Kim. Neil?
Yeah, as Angie pointed out, we attended the curriculum committee meeting, and 2 topics were highlighted. One, our update on our constant continuing endeavor to include expand, that is our career approach to education. That's a number of things on the agenda today that relate to that, and we're all pretty excited about that. And then the current emphasis on phonics in teaching students how to read and deal with language. Being a language art guru, I'm always fascinated in any subject that deals with phonics. I don't think we've ever not used phonics as an approach to a reading and language understanding, but the current program is I liken it to math instruction. There's a heavy emphasis on theory. I remember long ago when I was in first and second grade, looking at letters that were up posted on the wall, and then we learned the sounds that were associated with those letters, and so we learn how to read using phonics, but it's a lot more sophisticated now. And one of the comments that I made is that, as is the case with teaching math with an emphasis on the foundations of mathematic principles and helping students better understand what they're doing when they're using arithmetic, especially number theory and all that. Oftentimes referred to as the new math, and it's for people that haven't been trained in that, using that approach. It can be kind of confusing, and that's sort of similar with the phonics approach. There's a heavy emphasis on the theory of sounds and identifying those sounds. And I think if I were in second grade, I'd probably fail because I wasn't brought up that way. But these kids catch on. They're pretty sharp and they catch on, and it's a good approach. The other area that I'm involved in is that I have to report is Education Foundation, and that's a huge undertaking. Well, Kim is familiar with that too, and we have a lot of things going on. The award assembly, scholarships, the process of selecting students who are going to receive tons of scholarships and some really huge ones that have been added to the list this year is a process that the foundation shares responsibilities with, and it's I need to get going on that and get a better handle on what's going on, and I'm not even aware. I don't know. Maybe John or some of the other administrators who have some insight as to what's being planned for an awards banquet this spring. I really doubt if we'll have this sort of banquet that we've had in the past, an awards assembly. But anyway, that's one of the things that I need to pursue a little bit more carefully. And then the Athletic Hall of Fame, Mike Peterson and Tom Jones have done a lot of work there, and there's quite a good field of inductees this year. They're toying with the idea of having a Athletic Hall of Fame banquet concurrent with homecoming week in the fall, and that's probably a good idea. And the other two banquets are the Distinguished Educator and Distinguished Alumni awards and the banquets that are associated with them. And we're in the planning stages there, and we have some pretty good members of that have been added to the Education Foundation who are alumni of the school and former instructors, teachers, some even older than I am. And so we have people who are pretty familiar with the history of District 241 that are on the foundation board, and we're going to have those people work with the distinguished alumni and distinguished educator areas because they know quite a few alumni and quite a few educators. And that's it.
Thank you, Neil. Bruce?
Yeah, I attended the Teacher of the Year committee meeting. It was a fun meeting. We got to vote on three out of the 61 people nominated, so it was kind of fun to do that. We also discussed how to honor the finalists at the reception. The reception is going to be April 7th at 4:15 in the parking lot of Hammer Field.
Thank you, Bruce. Dennis?
I attended the Business Ed committee meeting, pretty much everything Angie said. It was really neat. We talked about the everyday English and trying to get some businesses or individuals to come in and do interviews with the kids so they understand the importance of interviewing and get them on right track there. So that was really intriguing. Then talked about management classes. A lot of the manufacturing businesses have employees that are moving up from line worker to actually supervising. So how can we enhance that to make it better? And then there's also a dual training grant out there, the pipeline grant for businesses. The focus is on manufacturing, agriculture, IT, and health services. And then I know that John will be talking about the Future Forward, which I think is a great new piece. Approval on the Perkins grants, 4 have been approved. There's a couple more coming up yet, and John might be able to answer more of those. But all in all, a really good meeting, and like Angie said, we were covering a lot of ground there. So that's all I had.
Good, thank you, Dennis. I just want to make one comment on the Teacher of the Year video that they put out was amazing. It was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, a lot of the people you know and a lot of the people you don't, and to catch their background. Thanks for all the work when we get that many people, and as we said on there, probably every single teacher, administrator, para, everybody that's involved with the school district's been a great year, and they should all be awarded. So, thank you for that. Yes, Neil.
The Teacher of the Year, that is a great program, and I would like to make a point that this is not a prize, or it's not something that an educator wins. The person that gets this award is representative of the entire staff and the entire education community, and it isn't something that it's sometimes confused with something that someone wins, and that's not a good way to look at it. It's an opportunity to single out somebody who is representing the excellence that exists in our entire staff.
Good, thank you. Aaron? No. Okay. And I do not see a teacher here tonight, so we'll move on to number 7. There's anything. Number 8, Curriculum and Instruction Future Forward. John Double. John, one second. Jill?
We can't hear very well. Is the mic on? Thanks.
Is that better? Sorry about that. Okay. So what I'm presenting on today is called Future Forward. It's a program that spans across southeast Minnesota. A couple of years ago, when I first joined that group, it was part of the C team, where we were discussing how we were going to be connecting our businesses and our education platforms a little bit better. We had started on that here in Albert Lea, so we were a leader in that we had a combined Google Doc, if you will, just a giant spreadsheet listing over 300 different businesses from combined sources, including the Albert Lea Greater Education Project with Gene Eaton, along with our work-based learning programs, bringing all the people that we were already working with together. Unfortunately, that spreadsheet was then a document we had, and then it was access for ours. So there was difficult in that the businesses didn't have access necessarily to our information. That got a lot of wheels turning, and Sarah Ness with the Southeast Service Co-op headed up this program called Future Forward. It's a platform that brings the businesses, the students, as well as the teachers all together on a synchronous platform where everybody is responsible for their own information. So it's all real-time information happening. I'll have a handout for you at the end. We encourage all of you to sign up if you'd like to sign up so that you can be part of that as well. Let's see, we're going to go to the second tab, please. Oh, okay. Is it that one there? Okay. Sorry, long distance signing in. Oops. So while she's getting signed in, what this platform will walk through showing you is how different organizations can be connected with, how they can be looked up in the system. The organizations that I'll use as examples tonight, I've already connected with them to have permission to talk about them or about what they've done in the system. So once into the platform, it talks about the different schools. We have both of our high school and middle school on here. We will have the ALC up there shortly as that grows in next. Once into the platform, you then have a multitude of ways to search for people. So for instance, down here, we can search for, that's a better view over there, sorry. We can check the requests. Now what that is for that section is if a teacher's looking for instance, in the case of Everyday English, they were looking for some businesses to help out with doing the interviewing for the class. They could put that out there to the business world. They would get emails on that saying, here's an opportunity, if you'd like, you can respond. And the teacher would get that email saying, this particular business is interested in helping with those things. Since I have no requests from my classroom in there right now, we'll move on to the next. There's also an opportunity for businesses that are looking to connect specifically with educators. So once we have all the educators in here to do a full rollout this coming fall, they'll be able to take a look and find out who's an English teacher that I could connect with this on, or who's an ag teacher that I could connect with this, and be able to look up that person's information and connect with them. Looking at the professional ones, I'll start there. And yep, good, it worked. And I've connected with Abby to look at her profile. So Abby works with Arcadian Bank. And this is her personal profile that she's built in there on just different ways that she's interested in connecting with the schools and different schools as well. Not only do we have access to just the Albert Lee area schools in this, but the businesses will have access to the area schools as well. So you can see on Abby's here, again with Arcadian Bank, they've got the Glenville Emmons as well as the Albert Lee area schools listed. It asks about, you can access a professional video. We'll see one of those in a little while. And she listed under lessons she can teach, you'll see banking basics. And she's actually got a hyperlink to a lesson in there. So it'd be something that if that was something that a classroom wanted to connect with, something she could do. And she informed me that April is Finance Management Month or something along those lines, so we'll be connecting her with our personal finance classes as well. Volunteer roles, these list all the different ways, and there's a very long list of the different ways that professionals can connect with our classrooms, from being guest speakers to internships, externships, all sorts of ways. And they can select from those, and then they're listed on this page. So that way, when you found the speaker, if you're searching by the person's name, you can see all the different things that they're interested in. Another way to search through this is if you happen to know the business you're searching for. So you can go to Find Companies. And I'm going to, right here, could you type in Innovance, please? I've spoken to Innovance, and so we'll have them come up here. So this gets a very brief one-sentence description. And as soon as you click on more info, because you wanted to find out what Innovance does, it locks into their page. Now, they've done a little bit more work. Mike Schnell is our connection at the Southeast Service Co-op, was impressed with the work they've done on their site already. So we've got the summary of the business, so that's kind of and that can be as long as or as short as you've liked. I've seen some of these that are almost 3 pages long, just to tell people about their business and give their story. Location gives you a map, so if you're wondering just how far away you are, it brings up a Google Maps so you can figure out just how far you are from the company. It gives an opportunity for businesses to upload videos, and we'll watch one of those in just a moment here, but they were able to upload 3 of theirs. One is an overview of their company, one is a discussion on one of the machines they use, and another is kind of a trade one. They can upload resources, and they've uploaded things such as their employee handbook. We have a number of students who participate in youth apprenticeships down there, so the employee handbook is actually something they need to go through as they become an employee there. And down at the bottom here, they even have listed their scholarship information for students. So if a student were able to go on here and download that scholarship information. And then we have their employees, and these, once an organization creates an account, then all of the employees can link into that account or that base account. So I've spoken to Jim, so he's allowing us to use his. And again, going right back to his page, you can see he's got a different group of schools. So he's listed a lot of other schools that he's interested in working with, as well as a lot more different type of things. Expert presenters, he's got in here in-school event organizer. So a lot of different variety in what he's interested in helping with. He was also, again, able to link this professional video. The videos, the really nice part on those, and we've done a lot of our tours, because we can't necessarily go into the businesses, a lot of these companies have these great recruiting videos that are already been done. And now they're being able to be put into use to encourage our students. So taking a look at this video here, a couple things we'll talk about afterwards that you can notice as you watch the video.
What gets me coming back to work here every day is probably the diversity, not only of the people, but the customers, the parts, the processes that we all have involved out here.
I can truly say that I like the people that I work with.
I get to work with a solid team, that we all work together and try to accomplish the same goals for our customers. Not only make us successful, but them successful as well.
Here at Blue Ridge, I feel trusted, and I trust the people around me.
Blue Ridge is an extension to my family.
Blue Ridge to me is more than just a job. It's a place where I can learn, where I'm challenged every day, and I feel accomplished when I go home at the end of the day.
One of the big advantages to working at an employee-owned company is that you're working with your co-owners, not just co-workers.
Blue Ridge to me is a cornerstone, not only in my life, but also the community that I live in. Not only does the company invest in me, I try to give back and invest as much as I can in the company.
I've developed a lot of skills here that I've carried into my personal life. To me, I became a better spouse, a better mother, and just overall a better person.
Blue Ridge to me means security. I've raised 3 children and paid a mortgage, never been laid off. I feel like I owe them an honest day's work too.
One of the things that gives me great pride in Blue Ridge is that almost every one of our customers that we produce parts for, their parts are making a big difference in the world. They're changing the world, if not saving lives in the world.
Everybody watches the person in front of them, the person behind them.
It's a good feeling to know that you are walking back into a place where there is personal growth and opportunities and a chance to collaborate as a team.
I believe in the process. I believe in the people that I work with. And when I leave at the end of the day, I feel like we did a good job and we turned out good product.
We all work together as a team. I have their back and they have my back.
Working at Blue Ridge gives me a sense of pride in knowing I contributed to the companies we manufacture products for, and that these products are used every day all over the world. We don't cut any corners. We don't send something out the door that's not exactly what the customer ordered. We make sure it's to print.
You can bring raw steel in the back door, you can laser it, weld it, bend it, machine it, paint it, assemble it, and you get a finished product going out the door. I don't think there's many companies that can do all that.
One of the pieces I really liked about that video when I saw it was not only is it visually showing the students those different machining operations and the different things that they do there, but if you listen to what they were saying, they really talked about teamwork. They talked about diversity. They talked about the ability to get along with others, to watching each other's back, to belonging to something bigger than themselves. Just those things that really would draw you into a business, something that they did because it's a recruitment video for them in other places as well, but terrific for a student to both see those things and hear those things, as that's what they're hoping to get out of a career. There is no cost for a business to sign into these. It is completely free. It also has the opportunity for individual speakers. So if there's someone that has a background in a particular area that would be interested in joining as a guest speaker, that's possible as well to be in there. That's kind of the quick version of that, but are there any questions regarding Future Forward? There's a packet that I passed out as the video was playing. It'll come out electronically to those of you in cyberspace. That'll get emailed out.
I would just say it's, I had the opportunity to go on. I think I said before, I worked with a guy out of Rochester that walked me through it. I got everything set up. It's easy to use, and I just think it's a great access for the school and the businesses that work with them. Just the array of what you can do, and I think as we get more and more students working out in the community, they'll have the opportunity to see what's out there, and they can pick and choose what they really like or find the avenue. I think even in the middle school, it'll be a great opportunity for them to see what's out there. So I've been impressed hearing about it at Business Ed and just through the emails and everything I've gotten. So I think it'll be well worth it.
How far does this reach out right now? Is it just basically southern Minnesota through the Southeast Co-op, or how does all that work, John?
It's through the Southeast Co-op. Right now, the range of schools goes from about Alden, Albert Lee, all the way over to the Wisconsin border. about as far up as Red Wing, and then we know that Faribault is also on the system, so kind of that line backwards. So lots of different areas, and the businesses can select from all those as well. For instance, Fastenal out of Winona, I know they've got Albert Lee as one of their selected districts as well. Even though they're not local to that area, businesses can use that as a recruiting tool, trying to connect with students from those other districts.
Thanks. Any other questions for John on Future Forward? Well, thank you very much for that work. A very exciting program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 8.2 is Policy 604, curriculum, instructional curriculum. Mary Jo Dorman.
Thanks, John. Thank you. All right, good evening. Today is Policy 604, and the Policy Committee met last month, and on that committee is Jill, Kim, and Dennis. And we are not recommending any local changes. We are following MSBA changes. So tonight is a first reading and approval. And you received the policy in your board packet, but I thought I would just highlight the changes or additions that are part of this policy. And the first one, again, this is instructional curriculum. The first one is the policy has added the addition of a civics test. This went into state law in 2017 that, and again, this policy was last reviewed in 2011, that all students, before they graduate, must take the civics test. And so that was an addition. And for your enjoyment, I have a copy of the civics test for you all so you can hone up on your own skills. Aaron should have one too, but you probably already took it, Aaron. Probably. Basically, the civics test is to become a U.S. citizen, you take, it's 100 questions. The civics test that students take is 50 questions. And the state allows us to administer the test anytime between the grades 7 through 12. And in Albert Lee, we chose to do it with our government class with 11th graders. So the next addition is that the requirement that all students, 9th through 12th graders, have a 4-year grad plan. So at least a pathway of what are their plans for high school to meet all the grad requirements. And they do that with school counselors, staff, etc. So that has been added. And then, of course, just hearing John, why wouldn't you add the addition of career pathways? So that's in the new policy, too, that we're really focused on college and career pathways for students and looking for the instructional curriculum that aligns with where we're going. And all the great work that John is doing is fantastic and aligns with this policy very well. And the other addition is that English language instruction, that we continue to provide professional development, not just for the English language teacher, but for all classroom teachers, that all day long we're serving all students. So those are the major additions. And so I'm just asking for approval tonight to approve the MSBA changes and put this into policy. Overtly.
Any questions or discussion? Angie?
I was just curious on the civics test, it had said it was mandatory for graduation, but then later on it said, I don't have the wording in front of me, but it said something about the students didn't have to pass it in order to graduate. Are there consequences to not passing it, or is it just something you take and do the best you can?
Yep, there is not consequences. We have put it in 11th grade. The state considers passing 30 questions or more. So we have placed it in 11th grade. We feel the aligns, very well with the government classes. And we offer students the opportunity to take it for a second time. But there is not a consequence if you don't pass, but hopefully through the instruction, you know, we want all our students to understand civics and just be good citizens moving forward as they head into adulthood. So you're correct, Angie, you do not have to pass the test to graduate.
Dennis?
I was just going to make a comment. When we talked about the CPR and AED. That will be incorporated. I think you're looking at which, like the health class or that to get it in, but we can also use community resources, the medical center and others to help teach that.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that one, Dennis. Thanks for bringing that up. So the policy does, we have been doing CPR in our grade 10 health class for quite a while, but this was also added that CPR is in our health classes at the high school. It's actually in policy. We have been doing it instructionally for a long time, but now it's been placed in policy, as well as the defibrillator is also listed in policy. And we cover both of those methods, life-saving methods, in Health
10. Jill, did you have another question? Did I answer it?
I was just going to mention for the civics test that the students didn't have to pass it, but if we wanted to, we could put on the transcript if they did pass it. So that's an option that we could do.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, then we'll do a roll call vote on this one for policy 604 for the to pass this policy. I'm sorry. Yeah, you want to make a motion, Dennis?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, and Bruce will second. Okay, we'll do a roll call. So I'll start with Neil.
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
And aye for myself. Thank you, Mary Joseph, 7-0. And now on to 8.3 for support of the Minnesota Department of Education online learning. New provider application.
Yep. So I am asking for the board approval today for submitting an online application for school year 21-22 next year for an online learning application for grades 4 through 12. We're looking at both. You have the choice for an online application to do comprehensive, which means that student is full on, they're online, they're not on site. It's a complete online experience or platform. The other opportunity is supplemental. So that could look something like that student who has a very full schedule, and Erin can attest to this and even comment on this if you'd like, Erin, that it's sometimes to get in some of the electives or PE class, that with students who have very full schedules, who are interested in, you know, the music or the arts, it's hard sometimes to get your schedule adjusted so you can take all those classes. And so this provides some flexibility that if a PE class wasn't being offered or an arts elective class wasn't being offered, the student could take it online at the high school but still get their elective credit. So that's what supplemental looks like. And again, we're looking to send this into MDE. The process looks like this. Once we have the approval from the school board to apply, we will send it in, and MDE has 90 days to review the application. And in the schools that we've already been hearing from, during that 90 days, they're coming back with lots of questions, or have you considered this? Feedback, considered for changes before they approve. But after that 90 days, so we're hoping to get it up to MDE this week. After the 90 days, they would give us a, yes, we approve your plan to move forward for next year, or no, we don't. So that's the overview of it. Anybody have any specific questions?
So now my understanding is then we basically would approve it to use our curriculum and our teachers, their curriculum and their teachers, or any combination thereof without me going through all of them, is that correct?
It would be our teachers for everything. What would be different is if you're you're taking an online class, it could be we're looking at a vendor called Edgenuity. And the reason we're looking at that is they have curriculum already aligned to the Minnesota standards that is truly online classes. And I think, what, we have to wrap our heads around is, okay, we have in-person learning. We all know what that is. That's what we all had for our schooling. Then we had e-learning. Well, e-learning was for snow days. It's that virtual day of, we don't have school today, but hey, come online. We're still going to do instruction on a snow day. Then we went to distance learning. And distance learning was our teachers who were assigned specific classes all day long, online, virtually, all day with kids. That is not what e-learning looks like.
Online.
Even I get the terms. You've got to really think about this. Online learning is truly online learning. Your online, it's all Minnesota standards based, but it's videos and lessons. It might be webinars. There is collaborative meetings with students. There's teachers who can supplement the curriculum as well. But I think I want to make it clear that a teacher's not in that class every single day like we have been for distance learning. And so we did talk about that's a big piece. If parents are interested next school year, and we put that in our plan for online learning, that there will be onboarding, and parents and students should come to the orientation to onboard to truly understand what online learning is. Because, we've seen a lot of shifts this year. We've been sharing the numbers. Chris shared them today. Just an example of, we started the year this year with, say, 62 kindergarten students who signed up for distance learning. As we roll into fourth quarter now, we're down to 17. Because the reality is, with online learning, parents, and they are called the learning coaches. And with distance learning, you had the teachers there supporting you every day. That's not what online learning is. So we want to make sure we're, do a great job explaining this is what it looks like, this is the great opportunities it has, but you as a family have to make sure that this is something that you can support, because, a student's pretty independent, but you have that parent as a learning coach as well. So.
Well, I'm glad that it's 4 through 12 and not K through 12 because of the math and reading, and I personally would think it would be awful hard for me to learn how to read online yet understand. So is that the standard in the industry, or is there actually K to 12 programs, or there is?
There is K to 12 programs. Some schools are submitting K-12 plans. I know we're doing the same as Red Wing. We're looking at grades 4 because at K-3, literacy and foundational math is such a big piece, let alone the social emotional skills. And I think we saw through the distance learning piece we had teachers supporting our primary students tremendously. They did a fantastic job. But for a primary student, it's still very challenging. So that's why we decided as a district in talking to, getting feedback from teachers, getting feedback from principals we would like to start for our first year with grade 4 as a beginning year.
Very good, thank you. That's a great idea. Questions, Dennis?
Just a quick question. Since it's through Department of Education, will teachers have opportunity for onboarding and education then, if they're going to be doing some of that, just to really help foundationally for them moving forward?
Yeah, obviously there's, professional development has to continue for teachers, and it's another model. And so there are a lot of training sessions for online learning. And yes, our teachers would be part of that. Absolutely.
Jill.
Sorry. So is there a certain amount of students that would be needed for a class size for this opportunity?
You know, it's not like distance learning where we were making class sizes and putting a teacher with that class every day. We don't know what the numbers are going to look like, so we do know that, say I'm a social studies teacher, well, I might have 4 in-person classes and 1 class that is just, not, I want to say it right, is online learning. We have had teachers already come to us to say, hey, if you offer online learning, sign me up. So we have teachers interested, and all we've said at this point is obviously we have to get our plan in place, get it approved, number one, and then from there we need to do the outreach to parents, orientation, see how many are interested, and then we'll plan accordingly. So there are, at this point there's no minimum for classes. It's much more flexible than distance learning was.
I was looking away, so Kim, I'll go to you, then Angie, sorry.
So just to clarify, this really is what it is doing is expanding what we can offer students in the district, so they potentially would, if we didn't offer this, they could potentially look at other districts that did offer that, and we potentially could lose them.
Oh, we're already losing kids this year to online learning. So you may have heard of Minnesota Virtual Academy. We lost 2 students last week to them. So it's already a competition for us, and why not provide it? We have great teachers in this district. Let's keep those kids back, because maybe one year they do want to try the online, and then maybe next year they're like, nope, I want to come back. And we want to be there to, you know, offer the choices that they want. So it is a competitive thing of keeping students in the district.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Angie.
My question is kind of related to Kim. I was just wondering if there's opportunity with this to bring in students who we wouldn't reach otherwise, maybe from districts that aren't doing this and they want to do the online learning.
Yep, it's open up to any Minnesota resident. Now, just knowing, you know, working with other districts, and you know, we work very closely with all the Big Nines, regular meetings. All Big Nines are going through this process for an online learning school. Chris, I don't know if you've heard as well, but yeah, many schools are doing this. I think after what we've learned through the pandemic is we can't go back to just the in-person traditional style we had, because some students do very well with an online platform.
And like you said, there's a lot more to it that people didn't understand at first, and now if you get the orientation, you get the full understanding. If it's right, it's right. It's a nice option to have.
Right.
Any other? Neil?
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts concerning this. As Angie said, I think it does open the door for a lot of opportunities, and I'm wondering, is it possible or likely that we would share with other schools that have the same online certification that we would have, so that you know, for example, we might not be able to offer a course in differential equations or Russian or something, because we simply don't have enough students that would enroll in that course. But if we partnered with Alden and you know, Glenville, Austin, maybe you know, surrounding schools, or it wouldn't even have to be that contiguous to us, would we have an opportunity to expand our curriculum offerings by partnering with other districts who have similar interests among their students, but not enough students interested to warrant offering a course? And then another consideration, another question I have is, how does this, how do we get credit for a foundation aid, a state aid for students that are not in our district? I would assume that we're going to be credited with those enrollments, which would increase our enrollment and our state aid. And then another kind of a related question, Somebody else brought it up already. What about a teacher equivalency? So I'm an online instructor. Am I going to have a class with 8 students, and is that going to be one of my assignments? How does that work?
All right, so I wrote them all down, Neil, so I got them. So Dr. Funk could answer the district sharing more. I do believe the Big Nine talked about it, but just in the reality of everybody going for an online or online approval, it was decided at this time that schools would remain separate. Now, you do have schools like Red Wing and other schools in Goodhue County, so you have a small group or smaller schools who are going together with their education district. So like Goodhue County Educational District is supporting, I believe, I don't know if it's 4 or 5 smaller schools, so they can move forward with this. So that's what I know of the district sharing at this time. The other thing, Neil, is the company we're going as a vendor for the curriculum. As long as we have licensed teachers, we can offer classes we don't have now, but you still need a licensed teacher. So say we wanted to take Chinese. Well, we need somebody licensed in that language to teach it. Things may change down the road, but at this time, it's our staff that we're using. So they have to be licensed in the area of content. Your second question, yes, if we get a student from another district who joins our online school, we get full funding for that student. And your third question, I wrote down teacher, and I don't remember what the question was. Neil, what was your third question? Do you remember?
Well, I was just wondering how is this going to work as far as a teacher's workload? If they have a class with 8 or an online class with 8 students, is that going to be the same equivalent to a biology teacher with?
Yeah, those exact specifics, it's hard to know yet, but yes, if we're assigning a teacher to it, but where it will look different is if I'm a science teacher, I might have online students of 5 biology students, I might have 4 students of physical science, and I might have 6 students of earth science. So you're going to serve more than just what your specific content is. It's going to be your full licensure. So if you're a science teacher, you might have 3 different science type classes, content classes that you're responsible for online learners. Same with social studies. Same with if I am a English teacher, I could have students in grades 7 through 12. So that's how we justify that. It just wouldn't be if I'm a 12th grade English teacher, I'm just taking the 12th grade online learners. Nope, you're licensed in 7-12, so you would have students in that span.
So would there be a possibility that I'm a science teacher and I have 3 classes that I teach in person, and then I also have 1 assigned class or 2 online then?
Yep.
Okay. Dennis?
I'm making a motion to approve supporting new provider application to the Minnesota Department of Education online learning for District 241.
Thank you. Kim?
I will second it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, again, we'll do a roll call vote on this. I'll start with Bruce.
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Oh. Neil?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
And I will say aye, and we got yours too, Jill. 7-0. Thank you, Mary Jo. Okay, we'll go to number 9. Now we're looking at amended budget. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. I have to tell you, my dog is sleeping right by me and she snores. So if you hear a funny noise.
Mine slept on my lap last time.
Sure.
Of course, my husband's napping and he snores too, so it could be either one. Okay, I think Ashley's going to share the presentation. So normally I would have done this in February. We were waiting for the legislature to release our next round of funding. They actually still have not released it, but I feel confident that I have enough information from MDE that we don't have any concerns about getting the funds. For those of you on the Finance Committee, nothing that I'm going to talk about here is really any different than we spoke about at the Finance Committee meeting in February. So if we want to get started, I'm going to start with some revisions to the budget that are really just neutral revisions. In other words, revenues equal the expenditures. So our largest pot of money so far that we've gotten from the federal government were our COVID relief funds, and those were funds that we had to spend by the end of December 31st. So we received those funds and they have been spent. We've also received, since the preliminary budget, so these are all changes since the budget you approved in June. We've also received what's called the ESSER 1 funds. You can see the amounts there. And the GEAR funds, the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Funds. Those are all what they called round one funding. We are still in the process of spending these other funds. And just to give you guys an idea of what all we're using all of these federal funds for. We have hired additional staff. We've hired an RN. We've hired 2 health clerks. We've hired a distance learning academy administrative assistant. We've hired 4 full-time subs at the elementary schools. We have spent a really significant amount of money on PPE, and by that, we're probably close to $200,000 on PPE. We have bought equipment for our custodians, not only the sprayers for the sanitation, but some things to help make their cleaning go faster so that they can spend more time on the sanitation. We use these funds to purchase our thermal scanners. So there's been a really wide range, and fortunately, a very liberal, we have a lot of ways that we are allowed to use funds. All of our hot spots. We've purchased quite a bit of online curriculum with these funds. So, but all of these that are listed here are neutral. We expect to get these funds and spend these exact dollar amounts during this year. Achievement and integration, this is one of our grants that we get. We got some additional grant money, so our expenditures are going to equal that. The biggest use of these funds are the success coaches. And then Hawthorne and Halverson each received about $75,000 this year. They will get that same amount for the next 2 years. And the stated purpose is to identify students who have an aptitude for the computer sciences. So they're doing all kinds of neat things with these funds and purchasing programs and doing some staff development to help teachers in this area. I have not seen the application yet for next year. We also purchased some BenQ boards, which are kind of the latest technology for large video presentations in classrooms. We purchased iPads. So a lot of great things happening with our universal grants. Next up, we have then changes to the general fund revenue. Since the preliminary budget, we have looked at what our enrollment has done this year, where it's projected to end the year. We have adjusted that down about 20 students. Our biggest loss, however, was the loss of extended time revenue, and that revenue is generated by our after-school classes or targeted services. And since we have not had the opportunity or the ability to offer after-school classes this year, we are losing almost all of that revenue. And that's about 500,000 of this 592,000. We are still offering credit recovery, and that gives us some extended time revenue, but our elementary program is where we are losing those ADMs. Athletic fees, when I spoke to Paul, after, at least during the fall and winter, our participation really remained about what we've seen in the past. But as you all know, we have our new policy where families can pay what they can afford. And so we have seen a dip in the actual fees that we're collecting. No surprise, our admission fees are down. We've had very few spectators, and so we've collected virtually no admission fees. Our other big losses are third-party revenue, and this is generated by our special ed staff providing services to our students by which we can get reimbursed from Medicaid. Because we've had a lot of hybrid and some distance learning, we have not had the opportunity to provide as many services. So this is about a third of what we would normally get, is about $650,000, $700,000 a year. So we're projecting that we are going to be about $225,000 less than that. Couple of bright spots, Career Tech Education Certification Incentive. This is something that John Double kind of alerted us to, that it looks like now it may be extend an additional year, but this came as a result of our students taking their CTE exams. And then the next round of funding, the funds that I was really waiting to get a little more information on, we do know that we can what's called supplant. In other words, we can use this revenue to pay for things that we were already planning to have in place. And so really this is the dollar amount of the $2.5 million of our ESSER II, of part of our ESSER II funds. We know the amount of what they call the 90% ESSER II is about $2.5 million for our district. And right now, in the revised budget, we'll be using $750,000 of that to supplant expenditures to keep us at our 12% fund balance. Okay, Ashley, thank you. Then general fund expenditures, we are anticipating that substitute costs are going to be less than we budgeted for. We just, we've found other ways to cover classes. Our property and liability insurance, this was a unexpected premium increase to us this year. And as a result of this, we are going out for an RFP to see what is available out there with other companies. But I am hearing from my peers that these premiums are going up across the board. A couple of other items of note, but really are not of concern, is our roofing system and site projects. These are both long-term facilities maintenance expenditures. As I've mentioned in the past, oftentimes these are summer projects, and we just, since our fiscal year ends on June 30th, we just don't know often when the actual expenditures are going to take place, when those vendors will be billing us. So this is just to acknowledge where some of our expenditures from last summer that we expected to pay before June 30th actually ended up being an expenditure. So the preliminary budget that you approved last June, we were anticipating to end this current year with a 12.04% unassigned fund balance. And by using $750,000 of those ESSER II funds that I mentioned a couple minutes ago, we will anticipate to end this year in about the exact same spot with this revised budget. Then moving on to our other budget areas, Food service, we had a neutral revision. You may remember we got that really nice community hub feeding program grant where we were able to feed the adults through November and December. With that brought in grant revenue equal to the expenditures of that program. Community ed, we did downward project revenue due to the limitations in holding our class sizes. You know, when we did our preliminary budget last spring, we just didn't really know what this year was going to bring. And now that that is in better focus, we can see that our revenue is going to be down. But on the other side, we have also adjusted our expenditure projections by a little less than the same amount of the revenue decrease. Building and construction fund, so we are wrapping up the Hammer project. When we did the preliminary budget, it's just always hard to know when those expenditures are going to take place. But by the end of this fiscal year, that fund will for the most part, be zeroed out. And then finally, Fund 20, you probably and hopefully remember that we have moved to a self-insured model on our health insurance this year, and we have to account for that in our Fund 20. We did not have any last spring. We really didn't have any budget in Fund 20, but what we are seeing this year is really very positive. So you can see here we are projecting premium revenues of about $8.5 million. So instead of paying a premium directly to Blue Cross or Health Partners, we are really paying the premium into our Fund 20. And then out of that, Blue Cross, which administers our health insurance, they pull the claims amounts and their administrative fees. So right now, we have about a $2.3 million balance in that account. And for a first year, it's extraordinary. So we are sitting very, very well with that Fund 20. So these are just, I hope maybe you had a chance to look in your packet. This is just a kind of an Excel spreadsheet to show where our revised budget is. This is the general fund. Then the next page is the food service through the debt service funds. And finally, the custodial and Fund 20. So before I ask you to approve this or ask, maybe if you have any questions about that, and then I want to spend a little bit of time talking about some factors that we need to be thinking about moving forward. Yeah,
Kim.
Yeah, mine is more of a statement than it is a question. So I have some colleagues in other districts that are on school boards, and they've reached to me in the last couple weeks or a month or so about what our where we set our fund balance and how we're doing, because they've seen significant losses in student numbers in their enrollment. And so I guess my comment is, and I said, did you get any of the ESSER funding, the CARES Act funding? And they did, but they're still facing deficits. So one school was in the red 4%. And so I guess my comment is it's just a huge testament to how hard Jennifer and the staff work. I think it takes everyone to be conscious of, all the department heads to really understand that it does take everyone to make that happen. And while we struggled as a district to lower that to that 12% as a goal, or 12.4, I think 12.04. I think that we should be celebrating the fact that we aren't facing deficits like other schools are that are very similar in size to us. So thank you.
Well, we are fortunate that we did not lose near the number of students that some of our neighbors did for this year. Mankato was projecting in their preliminary budget a $200,000 surplus. They are now looking at a $7.5 million deficit for this year because of their student loss. Austin lost, I believe they're now at about a 200 student loss. I mean, those are really devastating numbers for districts. It's tough for us because we lost 40 of our 40 students and approximately 66 ADM or average daily membership in our extended time. But what we're looking at is very favorable compared to some of the other districts. Any other questions about what we've already talked about? Then I want to spend just a couple of minutes talking about factors impacting us, as we move forward. So I've mentioned this in the past, but I cannot emphasize it enough. So much of our funding is dependent on our enrollment. And we are a district that we don't tend to lose a lot of students to other districts, but we also don't tend to gain a lot of students from other districts. But what we are seeing right now is, or what we are projecting, is that our enrollment at best will remain steady moving forward or decrease slightly. Now, most of this is a factor of our graduating classes being larger than our projected incoming kindergarten classes. So it might be, it might be just our community at large, but if we don't see enrollment starting to increase rather than decrease, we are going to be looking at some level of reductions almost every year. Right now, we are projecting based on a lot of assumptions, I will tell you that, but right now we are projecting that we're going to have about $1 million in reductions for next year in order to maintain our 12% fund balance. There are many unknowns, and this is always the most difficult. Every other year it becomes very difficult to anticipate the next year because, one, we don't know our largest source of revenue. We don't know what the state is going to give us on our general education aid formula increase. We've been fortunate the last few years it has been 2%. There have been years where it has been 1% or no increase at all. We are projecting, as part of our financial projections, that we will get a 1% increase next year. Certainly the February budget forecast from the state was far better looking than it was last November or last spring. But that being said, part of that rosier projection is that so many students in the state are no longer attending public schools this year. And so they're using that savings as part of their projection. So a slight enrollment decline next year. Looking at health insurance premium increase over the last 4 years has averaged 8.19%. We're kind of taking that into account, even though what we're doing this year looks very promising. Brian and I actually will be meeting with our advisors on Wednesday to get a sense of what they are going to recommend for a premium that we charge ourselves, what kind of an increase they would recommend. And next, the operating referendum. As you all know, we did not pass the question last November. The operating referendum brings in a little over $2 million into our district. About $650,000 of that is in state aid, and the remainder of it is local property tax. That revenue will be completely gone for the 22-23 year unless we can pass a vote next November. I will tell you there's a more serious, and I've heard in the past, discussion from the legislature that school boards would have the ability to renew an operating referendum without going for a vote, but that is something that would have to be passed by the legislature. And then just to note that, certainly considering a higher referendum would help offset these future reductions that we probably will be facing because of our enrollment. Even if we get a 2% increase in the Gen Ed aid, that our expenditures on average every year increase by more than 2% when we look at salaries and benefits and all the things that go into our school budget.
Any questions for Jennifer? Okay, seeing none, I would look for a motion to approve the 2020-2021 amended budget as presented.
So moved.
Kim makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Angie. All right. Again, a roll call vote. I will start with Neil.
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
Kim.
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
Dennis.
Aye.
Bruce.
Aye.
And I for myself, 7-0 passage. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Before adjournment, just wanted to say, Mr. Dibble, thank you for sitting in tonight for Dr. Funk. And our next regular meeting or study session will be Monday, April 5th, at 5 p.m. Thank you.